With gas prices soaring globally, we want to find out more about why. Why is this happening? And joining us to talk about it is Ann Blunser, Executive Director of the Ralph Lowe Energy Institute at TCU. Ann, good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks so much for spending a few minutes with us on our new streaming platform. I hear that you recently returned from Europe, where you met with the International Energy Agency, the U.S. Department of Energy. What did you learn from that experience, Ann?
Well, I was there with our students, and we were primarily talking about energy security and the effects of the invasion on Ukraine from Russia and what that will mean for the security around the world. And we're obviously feeling some of that at the pump. You were talking about those prices and our average here in Texas being a little below $5. And if our friends over in Europe could only enjoy those prices, I think their average at this point, as of this morning, looked like almost $8 a gallon. So they're feeling the brunt more than we are, that's for sure. But it was a very enlightening time to get to hear directly from the people on the ground that are representing the United States, trying to negotiate what the sanctions look like, what that's going to mean, the impact for us as Americans, how we can contribute to help solve energy security and get Ukraine and Europe back to a place where energy is sustainable, where it's affordable, and most importantly, where it's reliable.
Yeah. From your experience, I mean, how much of this is blocking Russian oil from the market? I mean, is that the biggest part of this increase?
Yeah, I would say yes, you're correct. That's the biggest piece. We can't forget a couple other things. That demand went drastically up after COVID, more than what anybody expected. That our supply has not been increased. And then we've had a lack of capital investment in the oil and gas sector since 2014, when we had our last big bust, and the big multinational companies, the independents, everybody started to prioritize getting dividends back to their shareholders and putting less capital into the infrastructure necessary to be able to grow our supply. And now when the demand is up like it has been, and you have an international crisis like Ukraine, then yes, that all of those things are going to feed into this price increase.
I feel like in Houston, we always kind of have this, you take the good with the bad situation because our economy is so reliant on energy. So I guess it's good for some of those businesses, maybe, right? But obviously for the average person putting gas in their tank, or even the price of goods and whatnot, right? It's like sort of like that two-headed coin.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think you could ask anybody in the sector that has been a part of the boom and bust of the oil and gas industry, and they would, all day long probably say we would rather it not be so volatile. We'd rather the price of a barrel of oil be something that is consistent, and we can build around it and support it and strategize. Because it is so volatile, it's moments like this that allow them to survive during the bust. We can't forget that. It's the most volatile commodity in the world, and it's a global commodity. So no matter what's happening, and now we're living it right with Ukraine, we're going to specifically feel that, because now we don't have enough supply of one of the most valuable commodities in the world. And yeah, we can't forget the industry that is able to manage that and build businesses around it, has to probably have some of these times when they are at an increased price.
So that volatility, I guess, maybe it's safe to say, is more amplified with Russian oil off the market?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
You've got to think about 40%, I think, of Russia's GDP and what they operate under is specific to their oil and gas. So the minute we put sanctions on that from a world perspective, I mean, the EU just said 95 by the end of this year, they will not take 90%, will be able to cut off 90% of Russian oil and gas into Europe. That's significant. So that's going to have a pretty big impact on Russia and what their ability, to get things done and operate. We'll have another international crisis on our hands probably, because they're going to have, citizens that aren't going to be able to get their basic needs too. So yeah, I think it's all certainly amplified by this.
Mm-hmm. What about the outlook for the rest of the year? I mean, this is obviously a process to sort of cut down and cut back for the European Union's appetite for Russian oil. They're going to cut that back slowly. But politically, anything can shift at any time. So maybe it's hard to predict, but what are you hearing the predictions are for the rest of the year?
Right now, no one is not very optimistic about there being any kind of significant change in what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. Even in a perfect world, and we had a regime change tomorrow there, and the invasion stopped, it's gonna take 6 months to a year at a minimum for us to start to see a difference, at a significant difference at the pump and with a barrel of oil across the globe. It takes a while for that market to balance back out.
Yeah, it's always quick to go up and always slow to come back down. And thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a great day.